I got to have a real love. All right, now I gotta have a real love, honey. Hello, and welcome to Cass on Demand. It is me, it is I, Cassidy the doll, and I'm here to let you have it. All right, now, honey, let's get into the thing. So, you saw the title of the video, Times I Didn't Tell Him I Was Trans. When should you disclose? Obviously, today we're going to be talking about dating while trans and when you should tell the T. If you don't know what the T means your truth, your tale, your transness. When should you tell somebody that you're dating that you are transgender? All right, let's get into it. So, when should you tell somebody you're dating that you're transgender? You know what? I'm just going to answer this question and be straightforward to the point, honey. Don't tell them you're trans, bitch. Keep it to yourself and let the cards unfold as they will, and drop the panties and let them gag, bitch. No, I'm just joking. I will answer this question seriously in this video. I will be weaving in some story times of times that I dated men who did not know that I was trans. And I'm hoping through this video that I'm able to help somebody who may be struggling to tell somebody that they're dating that doesn't know that they're trans, that they are trans. So let's get into the video for real this time. Okay. Okay, so I thought it would be most logical to start this conversation of when should you tell somebody you're dating that you're trans, or should you tell somebody you're dating that you're trans, with starting off by asking who deserves to know that you are trans. Does somebody you're dating, somebody who is taking you to dinner or brunch or the movies or wherever you're going on your date, do they deserve to know that you are transgender? The simple answer to this question is maybe, bitch. So the first story time I'm going to tell comes when I was walking. I don't know where I was going, bitch, but I was just walking down the street, pumping it. And this guy in a car flagged me down, like waved me down, like, yo, mommy, come here. And he was a cute little poppy, I'm not gonna lie. And, you know, he intrigued my interest. And I went over to the car and he told me, come in the car and let's talk. And, you know, I was young and dumb, so I went into the car. And we started talking, and he was saying some things, and basically I picked up that he didn't know that I was trans. So I was like, oh, I gotta tell the T. So I told him, do you know that I'm transgender? And he was like, transgender, what is that? Back then, you know, most people didn't really know what transgender meant. So I told him I'm transgender. That means that, you know, I was born a boy, but I used to be a man, but now I'm a woman. And he was like, oh, you lying, you not a man, prove it. And I said, prove it? And he said, yeah, prove it. And I was like, well, what you want me to do? How you want me to prove it to you? He was like, show me it. If you got one, show me it. And I gagged, honey. I was like, oh my God, he want to see the she-meats. And I was like, again, you know, present me would be like, you know what? I ain't got time for this shit, and pump it. But young, dumb me, I was like, okay, you want to see it? I'll show you it. So I disclosed my anatomy to this gentleman, and he looks at it and he's like, oh, that's not real, that's a dildo. And I said, a dildo? And he was like, oh my God, why would you carry around a dildo? If you didn't want to give me your number, you could have just said that. And I was just like, I was over it at that point. And I was just like, you know what? I need to exit stage left before this get real ugly. So I left the car safely, and needless to say, I never heard from that man again. So now let's talk about answering the question, do you have to tell that you are trans? Do you have to tell somebody you are dating the T? And the simple answer to this question is absolutely not. No one is entitled to know that you are trans. That is your privacy. I don't care if you know, they bought you Red Lobsters, bitch. I don't care. Nobody needs to know. Nobody has to know that you are trans. They do not have to know that you are trans. But I would say, if this is somebody you are pursuing seriously to start a serious relationship with, do they have to know you're trans? And that's, in this situation, I would say honesty really is the best policy, because happy, healthy relationships are built on trust and honesty. So personally, I would say that do they have to know you're trans? If the relationship is going to be serious, then yes, I would say definitely they have to know that you're trans. If, number one, the relationship is becoming serious, and also number two, if you are approaching the point of becoming intimate. Okay, bitch, let's get into story time number 2. So I was going to go get my hair did at a salon, and the salon also had a barber in it, and he was cutting hair and whatever. And, you know, he saw me getting my hair done, and I guess he thought I was attractive, and he came up to me and started talking to me and asked me for my phone number. And I gave him my phone number because, you know, I did find him attractive. He was, you know, he was a piece of tray, no shade. You know, the girls love a piece of tray, honey. And I gave him my number, and we went on some dates. And on one of the dates, he brought a friend with him, his friend / roommate. And unbeknownst to me, on the date, you know, this I forgot where we went. I think we went to like some type of gaming place. And the friend had pulled him to the side and was like, yo, I think that's, you know, ugh. And the guy I was dating later on came up to me, the guy I was dating, and told me that, oh, you know, his friend said that, you know, he thinks I'm a man and he's crazy and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you ain't no man, is you? And I was like, oh, God, here we go. I decided I wasn't going to tell him right there with his friend right there. So I was like, nah, I ain't no man. And the reason why I denied it is safety. You know, I didn't know his friend that well at that point, and I really didn't know this man that well at that point either. And I didn't know if I were to disclose that I was trans right then and there, how he would respond, and if my safety would be compromised. So we went on another date, and after this date, we had spent some time in the car talking and whatever. And I was like, you know, I gotta tell you something. And you know, I'm transgender. I might have said I'm transsexual. I can't remember. And he was like, well, why would you lie to me, and blah, blah, blah. And you know, I apologized. And I was like, but I really like you. I would like to keep dating you. He ended up continuing to date me, and it became really weird, to say the least. And one night we went out for drinks, and he had got really wasted, and we had spent the night at a hotel, and you know, he was wasted and feeling the feels that you feel sometimes when you get inebriated, and he wanted to mess around. And I was, you know, I was like, okay, whatever, we can mess around. And I was like, are you okay with that? Because I don't, you know, you're a little intoxicated right now. And he was like, oh, let's just suck my dick. And I'm like, just suck your dick? What the fuck I look like? It just felt weird. So we ended up not being intimate. And then he was saying something that night like, oh, I want to make you my girl. But you can't have no dick. He was like, my baby can't be walking around with no dick. Like, you got to get that surgery. You got to get that gone. And I'm somebody who is non-operative when it comes to that surgery, gender confirmation surgery, gender reassignment surgery, I should say. No shade to anybody who is seeking bottom surgery or has had bottom surgery. That's just not for me. So I knew at that point that the relationship was definitely not going to work out because I wasn't getting no SRS just to be with this man. So anyways, we stopped dating, and that's the end of story time. Now, the point of me telling that story time was, again, does somebody have to know you're trans? Again, nobody is entitled to disclosure. But I decided to tell this man that I was trans because I wanted to pursue a serious relationship with him. And I definitely wanted to be intimate with him. So that's why I disclosed that I was trans to him. Okay, so the next topic in the discussion of should you tell somebody you're dating that you are trans has to do with privacy and validation. So when we're talking about telling somebody we're dating we're trans, in my opinion, people who are not trans, they just say, well, you just need to tell, you just need to be honest and blah, blah, blah. But they don't take into consideration that is your privacy. Like, you don't just, everybody's not entitled to knowing every detail about you. And there is such a thing as privacy and dignity that trans people are entitled to. Although it's not always about privacy, sometimes disclosing or not disclosing really has to do with avoiding rejection and the humiliation that comes with being rejected. And that's not a very that doesn't feel good, to be rejected and to be humiliated like that by telling somebody, this is my identity, something that I cannot control, and they reject you, So again, cisgender people, or I should say people who are not trans, they just say, oh, just tell, but they don't take into consideration that, I'm risking, this person rejecting me, and I'm risking being hurt, and nobody wants to be hurt. Also, let's talk about the gender euphoria that is experienced when somebody you are dating doesn't know that you are trans and presumes that you are cis. You're like, oh, they're seeing me as a cis woman. They can't tell that I'm trans, and that can be very validating, and that can make you feel desirable, and let's be honest, it could just make you feel very puss. So risking or telling them, is risking ending that feeling of gender euphoria. All right, so this next story time is a little crazy. So I was in a psych ward, bitch. Okay. I was in the psych ward, and apparently I was looking for love everywhere, bitch. So I met this man while I was in there. And he didn't know that I was trans. And we spent a week together, about a week, in the psych ward together, getting to know each other, and talking and flirting and holding hands. And we got in trouble for like inappropriate touching. Not that type of touching, like not that type of touching, bitch. Like touching, like holding hands, and it felt good. It felt good. I was at a really low point in my life, and having somebody see me as a woman, showing me this affection, desiring me, all these things did bring me gender euphoria. And it was not so simple to just tell him I was trans. And it's crazy because of how we met, but it's also crazy because he knew very intimate details about myself. He knew why I was there in a psych ward, and even with him knowing such intimate and I would say delicate details about me, I still didn't feel comfortable telling him that I was trans. I didn't want to end that gender euphoria, and I didn't want him to reject me. But this story actually has somewhat of a happy ending. So after we were both discharged from the hospital, we met up and we went on some dates, and I just couldn't tell him I was trans. Like, I was really liking this guy, and I was like, oh my God, he doesn't know, and I'm gonna tell him that he's not gonna want to date me anymore. And that was gonna crush me, because I was really liking this guy. I was falling in love with this man. And I knew he wanted to be intimate. Like, I could just tell he wanted to be intimate. And I wouldn't say we dated for maybe a month and a half before, like, I told him that I was, disclosed the tea to him. So we were at his house, and we were watching a movie, and I was like, I gotta tell you something, but I'm scared to tell you, and I don't know how to tell you, but I know I have to tell you because I really like you, and I want this relationship to be serious. And girl, it was all the dramatics. I was crying, and I was taking long pauses, and he was like, what? Just tell me. And I was like, I'm transgender. And he was, again, bitch, people really didn't know what that was back then. And he was like, what does that mean? And I was like, it means I used to be a boy. And he looked at me, was quiet, and then he was like, yeah, I thought your boobs were fake. And I was like, what the fuck kind of response is that? So, long story short, we continued to date, but he had moved out of state, and then, we just, we were no longer talking, and he reached out to me sometimes, but then I had met my husband, and obviously I was no longer available. But this is a really long story, but if you are interested in this and knowing all the tea for this story, because it's a messy story. I was in a relationship, and then that man had cheated on me, and I was getting revenge, and then I was in a psych hospital. But bitch, pick up my memoir if you want to know all the tea. Brave story of a trans woman. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next component of the topic. Should you tell somebody you're dating that you are trans? And we touched on this a little bit, but we're going to definitely get into it. Safety. You can't just tell somebody you're trans if the situation is not safe. So disclosure not only puts you at risk for rejection, humiliation, your privacy being compromised, the relationship ending, or all those negative things. It puts you at a very, very real risk for violence. And again, when people who are not trans say, oh, just tell that you're trans, bitch, it literally could be like, you can literally be unalive by telling somebody you are trans. So the story time that I'm going to tell under the subtopic of safety is one where I was in a club, an LGBT club of all clubs that this happened to me in. But anyways, I was in a club, and I was having a night out with my girlfriends, and in New York City, and I want to say it was Monster. I can't remember the name of the club, but I want to say it was Monster. And one of the bouncers saw me and started talking to me, and he was pursuing me and asked me for my number, and I gave him my number, and he like embraced me and like pulled me into him and like gave me a kiss and started making out with me. And I thought, stupidly, I was like, oh, of course he knows I'm trans. I'm at a gay club, and whatever. So I didn't know that he didn't know I was trans. So that's why I made out with him. And then I'm having a gay old time at the club, and the bouncer pulls me to the side. And he's like, "Oh, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you real quick?" And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I told my girlfriends, "Oh, I'll be right back." And then my best friend, Abby, shout out to Abby, you know I love you, bitch. She followed us, and she was like, no, I'm coming with you. And the bouncer took me into like some private room, and he was like, are you a man? And I was like, no, I'm not a man. I'm transgender. I'm a woman, a transgender woman. And he was just looking at me like with very piercing, like a very piercing, intense stare. And I was just like, we were just like standing there in silence. And I was like, you didn't know that? And I was dumbfounded. And he was like, pull up your dress. And I was like, I was so scared, and I just pulled up my dress because I was like so scared of this man. Like this was a big motherfucker. And like I was like scared, and I pulled up my dress, and I had a gaff on, but I had a bulge. And when he saw that, he was like, and he like started breathing real hard. And my friend Abby was still in the room with us, bitch. And she was like, we need to fucking get the fuck out of here. And she like pulled me and pulled my dress down and pulled me, and like we just like left that club. And I say all this to say that, number one, never assume somebody knows you're trans, even if you're in a gay club, apparently. And number two, never put your safety at risk. If you feel, trust your intuition. If you feel that, you know, this person that you may tell that you're trans is transphobic, homophobic, whatever, and they may harm you, do not tell them you are trans. So we are coming to the end of this video. So should you tell the tea when you are dating? Obviously this is a very complicated question and to answer, in a situation to navigate. And the answer to this question of should you tell somebody you're dating you're trans is obviously not simple. It's not so black and white, right? Like most things in life. So I think the answer should be taken on a case-by-case, situation-by-situation basis. I don't think there is a universal moment where you're like, oh, this is the perfect moment that everybody needs to tell that they're trans. That doesn't exist, unfortunately. So I would say if you're going to tell somebody you're dating you're trans, number one, trust your intuition and prioritize safety. And if you are going to tell her that you're trans, bitch, do that shit over the phone, honey. So trust the doll. You know, I've been that girl who didn't tell they was trans, and I've been the girl who did tell they was trans, and bitch, I gagged at each situation, honey. But I learned from each situation, and in my opinion, I would say honesty is the best policy. If you can tell somebody you're trans and it's not placing you at your safety at risk, tell them you're trans. Because if you are pursuing a serious relationship with somebody, it is best to have a foundation of honesty. Now, if you're just feeling your pussy and testing your realness, honey, and you just pumping on by, and the trade is like, yo, ma, come here and let me talk to you, and you just want to talk with them and chop it up, then, bitch, get your life, honey. You don't got to tell them you trans. Again, disclosure is not a privilege for everybody you are dating. So I hope you guys learned something from this video and my messy story times of when I used to date men and not tell them that I was trans, or they didn't know I was trans, or I thought they knew I was trans, they didn't know I was trans. So don't forget to, if you haven't already, subscribe. I'm desperate for subscribers. And like and share and comment and all that good shit. And if you are not, please follow me on IG, Cast on Demand. And again, if you have not already, please buy my memoir, my award-winning memoir, Brave Story of a Trans Woman, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And until next time, stay brave. All right, bye. I knew a dude named Jimmy used to run up Emmy. Nighttime, pissy drunk off the Henny and Remy.